The movie begins in a period 4 million years ago, at the dawn of man when there were no civilizations and the ape had not yet evolved. We see a desolate land where animals coexist, but there is a fight between groups of apes for the scarcity of the most essential resource, water. The apes lived comfortably until one day they woke up and discovered that a black monolith appeared out of nowhere. At first, they feared the block of stone, but then became curious about it. After the appearance of the monolith, the apes begin to exhibit behavior previously unknown. One of the apes discovers that the bones are more than just rubbish and uses them as a tool. Therefore, in later confrontations over the privatization of water, they use them to fight against and kill other groups of apes. In the future, with space travel and advanced technology, we meet Dr. Heywood Floyd. This man is going to a functional lunar research base on the moon called Clavius, where he was told were happening odd things. Dr. Heywood talks to his little daughter through a kind of video call. The girl asks her father if he is coming to her birthday party, but the man replies he can't. Dr. Floyd wishes her a happy birthday, says goodbye, and ends the call. After that, Dr. Floyd joins 4 people from different nations, Dr. Smyslov, and 3 women. They say that are coming home after 3 months of calibrating a new antenna in Chelenko. Then, Dr. Floyd says he is on his way to Clavius and Dr. Smyslov asks about the events occurring in Clavius. As far as Dr. Smyslov concerns, every time they phone the base a record says that phone lines are temporarily out of order. Dr. Floyd claims he is afraid, but he doesn't know anything about that. Then, one of the women adds that rockets are not allowed to land on Clavius, and Dr. Smyslov mentions that they have received relievable intelligence reports about a dangerous epidemic, apparently from an unknown origin, that has broken out at Clavius. Dr. Floyd apologizes, but he is not allowed to discuss such things. Dr. Smyslov expresses his worries about the epidemic spreading through the base, but Dr. Floyd claims that he is not at liberty to discuss that. After that, the people there wish Dr. Floyd good luck about his matters in Clavius and he leaves. Arriving at the lunar base, Dr. Floyd is told about a top-secret discovery. He gives a speech and congratulates the leaders for this amazing discovery. Dr. Floyd says they may be among the most significant discovery in the history of science. After that, it's unveiled the epidemic has been a cover story, but Dr. Floyd mentions that while many are concerned about the worry and anxiety this story may cause, he wants everyone to keep quiet about it until the council feels it is right to tell the truth. That's because there's a serious possibility of cultural shock and social disorientation if the facts were prematurely and suddenly made public without adequate preparation and conditioning. Then, Dr. Floyd explains that is the council's view and he was just sent there to gather information and opinions to make a report. One of the men in the meeting asks how much the cover story will be maintained, to what Dr. Floyd replies as much as the council decides. Then, with an uncomfortable atmosphere in the room, Dr. Floyd dismisses the meeting. What we see next is a spaceship with a crew inside it. This ship seems to carry out an investigation trip. The crew descends from the ship and heads to a place where an extremely weird lunar rock had been dug out. They don't even know what that rock is, but it seems to be the same or a very similar monolith that the one discovered by the apes million years ago. The astronauts are as amazed as the apes, and one of them approaches and touches the rock. Then, they all group together to take a picture, but at that exact moment a high-pitched beeping strongly disturbs them and we never hear from them again. 18 months later we know about the Jupiter mission. In a space station, we meet Dave and Frank, who are with 3 other people who have been put into hibernation before departure. This crew will make the first attempt to reach Jupiter. With them is HAL 9000, an intelligent computer that mimics most of the activities of the human brain and is thought of as the 6th member of the crew. HAL 9000 has a huge responsibility for this mission. He is the brain and nervous system of the spacecraft, and his responsibilities include watching over the men during hibernation. The astronauts claim that entrusting all aspects of their lives to a giant computer is the smartest thing they have ever done. This machine is, by the practical definition of the word, infallible and incapable of error. There is also the question of whether this computer has emotions or feelings, but Dave and Frank claim no one can answer that. Then, we see Frank has a video call from his parents who greet him on his birthday. They mention their son is a celebrity and they have been invited to TV shows. Then his father tells Frank that he is going to get higher rates next month, but while his father is quite excited, Frank looks uninterested about it. Hal also wishes him a happy birthday, and we see how Frank and Dave live together with the computer as if it were a human being. Later, we see Dave and Hal playing chess and the astronaut shows Hal his drawings. Then, Hal shows itself worried and asks Dave if he is having second thoughts about the mission. Dave doesn't understand what the computer means to say, so Hal claims that there are some extremely odd things about that mission. Although Dave expresses his ignorance about it, Hal continues to say that there have been rumors floating around about something being dug up on the moon. Dave remains skeptical about this conversation, so he asks Hal if everything has to do with the psychological well-being of the crew. The computer confirms Dave's suspicion and apologizes for that awkward chat. Right before that, HAL 9000 tells Dave that he picked up a fault in the AE-35 unit. HAL warns the astronaut it will be a 100% failure within 72 hours. However, the unit will remain within operational limits until it fails. Mission Control sends a message to the crew explaining that they'll have to replace the AE-35 unit before failure. Frank goes in a pod while Dave remains inside the spaceship. Frank manages to replace the unit and returns. However, when they check the unit they find nothing wrong with it. HAL claims that is puzzling and he has never seen something similar before. The astronauts remain silent for a while and HAL recommends putting the unit back in operation and letting it fail. In that way, they could easily track down the cause. HAL 9000 adds they can afford to be without communication for the short time it will take to replace the unit. Then, Mission Control communicates again and lets Dave and Frank know that HAL 9000 committed a mistake in predicting the fault. Although it seems rather incredible, it is explained that the conclusion is based on the results of a twin 9000 computer. HAL makes excuses for its error. Dave asks him what the discrepancy with his twin computer is about. HAL says that this sort of thing has cropped up before and has always been due to human error. Frank asks him if it's true that there has never been even the slightest computer error. HAL replies that not a single one. But Frank and Dave are very doubtful of the computer's assurances, so Dave makes an excuse about checking a problem in one of the pods and they go to talk inside of it, where HAL can't hear. Once there, Dave says he is not sure about what HAL told them and Frank affirms he has a bad feeling. Both agree that something is wrong but they decide to stick to the plan because they cannot find a good reason to not put back the unit until it fails. The two astronauts agree to put back the unit, but if it doesn't fail, they will be in a huge problem. They decide to carry out the plan to prove the computer's malfunctioning, and if that happens, they will disconnect HAL 9000. Dave mentions that as far as he knows, they have never disconnected a 9000 computer and that he is not sure what HAL would think. While all this conversation is going on, Dave and Frank are being watched by HAL. Afterward, they continue with the mission. Frank boards a pod and goes to put back the AE-35 unit to fail. Suddenly, something mysterious happens and Frank is ejected into space. Dave can't understand what just happened, so he asks HAL if the radio communication with Frank is still working. HAL says the radio is dead. Dave asks if he knows what happened, but HAL says he doesn't have enough information. Dave decides to board one of the pods and go to rescue Frank. Fortunately, he manages to reach his partner. While all this is going on, the computer starts to malfunction and the three remaining members of the crew are disconnected, leading them to die. Besides, when HAL is asked to open the airlock doors, he says he's afraid but he can't do it. Apparently, HAL is able to read lips, so he learned of the plan to disconnect him. Since HAL knows about the astronauts' plan and that is something he cannot allow, he refuses to open up to them. HAL claims that the mission is very important and to jeopardize it would be very bad for the human race. Dave has no choice but to let Frank go and enter the airlock. Unfortunately, he doesn't have his helmet. After letting his partner go, Dave positions the pod so that when he is ejected he is able to enter the airlock and close the hatch quickly. Once inside the spaceship, Dave is determined to disconnect HAL. The computer asks Dave what is he doing, but Dave just heads the logic memory center to shut down the machine. HAL tries to calm him down, saying that he knows he has made some poor decisions recently but his work will be back to normal. Although his attempts to change Dave's mind fail, HAL says he still feels enthusiasm and confidence in the mission and wants to help him. On his last try, the computer begs Dave to stop but is inevitable. The astronaut proceeds to disconnect HAL 9000's memory terminal. When the memory of the computer is disconnected, HAL mentions his name, that he was created on 12th of January 1992, that his instructor was Mr. Langley and he had taught him to sing a song. Dave says he'd love to hear it, so HAL sings it. When HAL 9000 is finally disconnected, Dave listens to the voice of Dr. Floyd. It is a pre-recorded briefing made before the departure and was meant to be reproduced when arriving in Jupiter's space. Dr. Floyd explains that 18 months before they had discovered intelligent life off the Earth and it was buried 40 feet below the Moon's surface. Then, Dr. Floyd says the monolith emitted only a single radio emission aimed at Jupiter and its purpose and origin remain unknown. It is then that Dave realizes that HAL's behavior is due to his knowledge of classified information about events at Clavius, the lunar outpost, 18 months earlier. Dave continues his journey in the pod through space and beyond the infinite, where he sees the black monolith. All the planets are aligned and so is the monolith. Suddenly Dave starts to see colored lights of different shapes. Perhaps they are from another dimension or parallel universe. These images, which could be a hallucination, take Dave to a dystopian land that seems to have been taken from another reality. This visual journey continues with a close-up of Dave's nervous eye. Now Dave is still in his pod inside a quaint bedroom. Through the window of the pod, Dave sees himself, but old and with battered skin. At that moment, that same Dave rattles the room where he finds a mirror. Dave looks his reflection in the eye when he hears utensils clattering. He turns back slowly and finds an old man eating. This old man turns around and we see that he is an old version of Dave. Old Dave gets up and heads where the previous Dave was. He finds no one there, so he goes back to the room and sits down to continue eating. While eating, he accidentally knocks over his glass and looks at the pieces of the broken glass on the floor. When he looks up, he sees another Dave even older than him lying on the bed. The oldest Dave breathes heavily, raises his hand, and points towards in front of the bed where suddenly appears the 4 million years black monolith. In the end, we see a fetus in the bed in the same room with the monolith. The final scene shows the immensity of outer space, a giant blue planet, and the fetus floating around the universe.